Okay, practice test 1 to get you ready for the TSI test. Let's look at question number 1. We have an equality of x plus y greater than 0 when x is greater than y. Which of the following cannot be true? Okay, cannot. Don't forget about cannot and just do it with a can. Okay? Which of the following cannot be true? So, first we need to check which of these choices has x greater than y. So, if we draw a number line, zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, -3, -4. This way, the numbers are getting bigger. This way, the numbers are getting smaller. So, for A, x is 3 and y is 0. So yes, x is greater than y, so we can think about A. For B, x is -3, y is 0, so x is smaller than y. And this inequality says x has to be greater than y, so B cannot be a choice. C, x is -4, while y is -3. Again, y is greater than x, so C cannot be a choice. D, x is 3, y is -3. So yes, D can also be an answer. So that way you eliminated 2 choices. So let's look at the first inequality. It says x plus y has to be greater than 0. So x plus y has to be greater than 0. So let's add x and y for the first choice. So x is 3, y is 0. So 3 plus 0 is a 3. Again, the question says cannot be true. So 3 plus 0 equals 3, which is greater than 0. So A can be true. So that's not a choice. Look at D. D says x is 3, y is -3. So 3 plus -3 is a 0. Now, can this be true? Well, it says greater than 0, but it doesn't have an equal sign. If it had an equal sign, then this would have been true. But since it does not have the equal sign, then it cannot equal 0. It has to be greater than 0. So 0 point something or 1 or 2 would be an answer. So the correct answer for this question, since it's asking for cannot be true, is D. Question 2 is based on the following table. Question 2 is based on the following table. We're giving the number of hours and cost of renting a bike for 1 or 2 and 3 hours. Which of the following equation best represents the data if C represents the cost and H represents the time of the rental? So we're going to plug in values from the table. I will use 1, since 1 is the easiest, and plug it in every single equation to see which one is going to give me 3.60 for the cost. Okay, so when H was 1, so I'm doing 3.60 times 1, which is 3.60. So A does satisfy the table values. Let's plug in B. C is equal to H plus 3.60. So, if H was 1, this is equal to 1 plus 3.60, which is equal to 4.60. So, B does not satisfy the table. Let's look at C. So, 3.60 times 1 plus 10.80 it's very clear that it will not satisfy. This is equal to 14 point something, very big value, way above 3.60. So this will not satisfy the table. D says it's 10.80 divided by h. So if h is 1, it's 10.80 divided by 1, which is equal to 10.80. So it will not satisfy the table. So the only choice that satisfies my table is A. Now, if there was 2 or more choices that satisfies the table, then you should plug in 2 for h and see which one will satisfy the second value for the cost. That will help you eliminate more choices. But in this question, it's only one choice that can work. Okay. Raphael has a business selling computers. He buys computers from the manufacturer for $450 each and sells them for $800. Each month, he must also pay fixed costs of $3,000 for rent and utilities at his store. If he sells n number of computers in a month, which of the following equation can be used to calculate his profit? So, we need to come up with an equation that will help Raphael calculate how much money he's making as profit. So, he has to pay fixed number of money every month for rent and utilities, which is $3,000. So, whether he sells computers or not, he has to lose $3,000 worth of rent and utilities. Okay? So he's losing that much money out of his profit. In math, we represent losing using the negative sign. Okay? That means I'm losing this money or losing this value. Now, let's see how much he is gaining. So, for one computer, he's going to spend $450. So again, he's spending or losing $450, but he's also gaining $800 back. So, he goes to the retail shop, he pays $450, and then if you go buy the computer from him, you're going to give him back $800. So, if we look at how much money did he make just for that one computer, is the negative 450 plus the 800 that you're going to pay him. So it's negative 450 plus 800, or 800 minus 450. So this is only for one computer. What if I have two computers? All I gotta do is repeat the process twice or multiply this value by 2. What if he has 3 computers? We need to multiply the value by 3. 4 computers. We need to multiply the value by 4. So here is the value or the number of computers he's gonna buy or sell. So just per computers, it's the number of computers multiplied by the 800 minus the 450. Okay. Then we have to remember that he's always losing the $3,000 no matter what. No matter what. So it should be the number of computers times the $800 he gets from the customer minus the $450 he spent to buy the computer. No matter how many computers he buys, you have to take away $3,000 for rent and utilities. If it's a fixed number, it cannot be inside parentheses. Inside the parentheses are the values that depend on n, which is the number of computers. So let's go look back at the choices we have. Apparently A is not right because the 3,000 does not depend on n. B is not true because they're multiplying 3,000 by the number of computers, and like we said, it's a fixed number. It does not depend on how many computers he sells. C, n times 800 minus 450 minus the 3,000, which matches our equation. And then D, n times 800 minus 450, so this part is true. But then they're adding $3,000 to his profit while he's supposed to be losing it and not adding it. This form can be a general form used to calculate any profit selling business questions. So n is the number of computers or number of items or number of candy or number of chocolate or whatever you're selling, multiplied by how much you get back from the customer minus how much money you spent on it, okay, inside the parentheses, because all of that inside the parentheses is multiplied by my n, minus how much money you're going to spend whether you sold something or not. Okay? Okay, so this question is asking for the value for the following expression. So, question number 4, negative 1/3 of x plus 7 equals 4. What is the value of the following expression? So first, we need to solve for x so we can plug in the value that we come up with in the following expression and figure it out. You have negative 1/3 of x plus 7 equals 4. Since we all love fractions, when you see a fraction, get rid of it. How do we get rid of a fraction? You multiply the whole equation by the bottom of the fraction or by the reciprocal of the fraction. Now, the reciprocal means you flip the fraction. So, 1/3, the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3 over 1, which is a 3. The reciprocal of a half is a 2. The reciprocal of 5/7 is 7 over 5, or 7/5. So, I'm going to multiply the whole equation by 3. Or you can multiply by negative 3 to get rid of that negative. So either way, it doesn't matter. So, I'll multiply by negative 3 just to get rid of the negative at the same time. But then you have to multiply everything by negative 3 to keep the equation balanced. Okay, so the negative 3 will take care of that negative third. So you'll have x plus 7 times negative 3 is negative 21 equals 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Continue with inverse operations. We need to get rid of negative 21. So we're going to add 21 to both sides of the equation. So x equals 21 minus 12, If you don't know how to do it in your head, write it on the side and play with it. So, just like doing 21 minus 12, you can count 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. That will give you the 9. Or you can do elementary math and say, okay, what is 1 minus 2? We can't do it, so we got to borrow 1. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes an 11. So 9, and 1 minus 1 is a 0. Feel free to use either methods. So the bottom line is x equals 9. Right? So now we need to plug in x in the expression they want us to calculate. So plug in that x in the second expression, which is 1/3 of x plus 3. So after you plug in x, you need 1/3 of 9 plus 3. To simplify this, 1/3 of a 9, that means 9 divided by 3. Hopefully you know that 9 divided by 3 is simply a 3. So this is equal to 3 plus 3, which is equal to 6. So B is the right answer. Okay, let's solve this equation in a different method. So you have -3rd of x plus 7 equals 4. If you're not comfortable with multiplying too many terms at the same time, you can just use the inverse operation to get rid of that 7. So -1/3 of x equals 7 minus 7 is 0. 4 minus 7 is a -3. Okay, so we use inverse operation to get rid of that fraction. So I'm going to use the reciprocal of -1/3. So I'm going to multiply the whole equation by -3. What you do to the left, you have to do to the right. So -3 times -1/3 is just x, because the 3 takes care of the third, and the minus takes care of the minus, equals -3 times -3 is a 9, because negative makes a plus. So x is 9. Then you take that 9 and you plug it in this expression. So 1/3 of a 9 is a 3, because 9 divided by 3 is a 3, plus 3, which is equal to 6. Question number 5 is about ratio and proportion. So you have Jack and Kevin. They play a basketball game. The ratio of points scored by Jack to the points scored by Kevin is 4:3. So anytime you see ratios, you need to write it down either in a fraction form or a table form. So you can say, okay, I have Jack, Kevin, total. Always put total. Okay? If Jack scores 4, Kevin scores 3, the total is 7. So this is the main information that you have to write anytime you see ratios on the test. Then it says here, which of the following could not be the total number of points? Well, we know that the ratio of the total is just 7, right? So any total has to be multiples of 7. So let's check. Is 14 a multiple of 7? Yes. 16 a multiple of 7? No. So 16 could be my answer. Is 28 a multiple of 7? Yes. Is 35 a multiple of 7? Yes. So A, C, and D could be, could be the total of the points, but 16 will not be because it's not a multiple of 7. So, and the question asks for could not. So the right answer is B. Okay, I want to teach a mini lesson on ratios and proportion. Let's say I have a class of boys and girls. Okay. My class has total of 30 students. Okay. And the ratios of boys to girls is 1 to 2. Okay, so I want to know how many boys are in my class. So, anytime you have ratios and proportions and questions like that, I like to make up my own table. I say, okay, I have boys and girls in total. Always put your total. Always put your total. Then, if you want to do it in a table form, you can. Okay. Okay. Now, what is the ratio of boys to girls? It's 1 to 2. So this is the ratio, and this is the actual numbers. Okay? Now, I have a ratio of 1 to 2. Now, I have total students of 30, but is this a ratio or is it actual? It's actual, because the ratio of 1 to 2 will add up to a 3. So, the first hint is most students confuse where to put the 30 and the 3. If it's the actual number of students, it goes on the bottom. The top is the total of the ratio. Then, I want to know how many boys I have. So I'm going to put a question mark here to indicate that this is what I really need to know. So, first you need to find which column it's completely filled out. So, looking at this, the total is the column that I have completely filled out. So I'm going to use it all the time. And I'm looking for boys. So I don't even need my girls. So I'm going to ignore the column that says girls, because right now I'm only looking for boys. So I'm just going to ignore the girls. Okay? I'm going to ignore the girls. Then, I'm going to look here and say, okay, I'll put a big X that connects everyone. Okay? Then I'll say, okay, which line has both sides numbers? So, which line has sides on the top and bottom? This line has top and bottom. So I multiply whatever has a partner. So 1 has a 30. It'll be 1 times 30. The lonely guy who has no one on its line gets dropped at the bottom. So again, if the line has both sides filled, they go on top. The lonely guy facing the question mark goes on the bottom. So it's 1 times 30 divided by 3, which is 10. So I have 10 boys in my class. Okay, number 6. How many 3-inch segments can a 4.5-yard line be divided into? Looking at my 4 choices, it seems like the numbers are way bigger than 4.5. So that tells me that I need to convert. because 4.5 to 45 and 54, 64, and 84, they're huge number. So most likely, I need to convert to feet or inches. 3 feet, that's not going to be enough to make it these big numbers, so probably we have to convert to inches. So 1 yard is 3 feet, and 1 foot is 12 inch. That means that 1 yard is equal to 3 times 12 is 36 inches. Okay? So, we need to multiply 4.5. So 4.5 yards are going to equal to 4.5 times 36, so we can get the inches. Some of these TSI questions will allow you to use calculator, but let's do it using multiplication, regular multiplication, in case they don't give us a calculator. So, you're going to write the 4.5, and for now, you're going to ignore that decimal point. Then, times 36. Ignore the decimal point completely. Then you multiply, you hide the 3, hide that 3 for now, and multiply. 6 times 5 is 30, 0, carry up the 3. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 is 27, okay? And we always put the 0 here, and you cross out the 6, you don't care about the 6 anymore, then you do 3, this 3 times 5 is 15, 5 and carry up 1. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Then you add so 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 5 is 12. 2 and carry up 1. 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 1 is 6, and 1. So 1,620. Now, we go back to the original problem to add the decimal point. Then you see, how many digits do I have after the decimal point? 1. Then you place the decimal point here because you need 1 digit after the decimal point. So 1 digit, now it's matching. So 4.5 yards are going to equal to 162 inches. Now, if they give you the calculator, then there should be no stress. You just do it on the calculator. Now, we have to see 162 is divisible by which numbers? Now, we need to see how many 3-inch segments. So each of the segments have to be 3-inch, right? So we need to divide 162 divided by 3. How are we going to do that? We can do long division. Okay. So 162. Then I'm going to divide by 3. So I need 162 divided by 3 equals 16 divided by 3 is a 5. 5 times 3 is 15. You get a 1. Put down 12. 12 divided by 3 is a 4. 12. You subtract. No remainder. We're good to go. So, when you divide the 162 by 3, you get a 54. So you know that B is the right answer. Here comes the best Algebra 2 skill you've learned that year in class. I don't know if you guys remember, but we said A plus B times A minus B. This applied to the difference of squares. I'm gonna smile big because I told you guys, you copy the numbers twice, then you have a plus and you have a minus, so that equals to a squared minus b squared. It's a difference in two squares. Now, if you're like me and you forget where you put your Promethean pen, then you probably might forget the rule. Now, that's not cool, but it's okay. It's still doable. So if you don't remember your rule, you can always use the FOIL method or the box method that we learned in class. So let's use the box. We said, okay, we have a 2 by 2. Okay. A plus b times a minus b. Okay, let's multiply. A times a is a squared. A times b is ab. Negative b times a is negative ab. Negative b times b is negative b squared. Look at the magic. When you combine those like terms, they cancel each other out because negative ab plus ab is a 0. So it's a squared minus b squared. Okay, when you have a power base on power equals a base on a power, and you're supposed to find the power, people will freak out. But the key to solving these problems is to make the base the same. So you need to make your base needs to be the same. So I have 2 to the power 4 equals 4 to the power x. Now, how can I make 4 into a 2 to the power something? Well, yes, we know that 2 squared is a 4. So, I can remove the 4 and make it 2 squared. Well, 2 squared, but I also have x in my power. So 2 squared, all to the power x. This 2 squared, just replace the 4, is going to equal to 2 to the power 4. I haven't changed anything here. But then, hopefully those of you who watched the video about the power rules know that 2 squared all to the power x, you just multiply the powers. So this is equal to 2 to the power 2x equals 2 to the power 4. Now, once your bases are the same, 2 and 2, if the bases are the same and the two terms are equal, therefore the powers have to be equal. So that means that 4 has to equal the 2x. And if 4 equals 2x, then x is simply 4 divided by 2. So x equals 2. If that was too confusing, then you can simply say, okay, let's do it in a different way. 2 to the 4th equals 4 to the x. You can just simply say, okay, so 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 4 times, okay, and multiply. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, equals 4 to the power x. Okay, so 4 to the power what? It's 16. So 16 is 4 squared equals 4 to the power x. Therefore, x is a 2. Or you can say that 4 squared is 16, so x has to be a 2. Okay, this question is hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. You study for your CBA 2 how to subtract polynomials. At the same time, you get ready for the TSI. So, let me apply different strategies and methods to show you guys how to subtract this polynomial. The reason I said subtract is because it's minus. So some of you are visual, they like the box. Okay, so I'm going to do the box. I have squared x and a constant, x squared, x and a constant. So this is a degree 2. If it's degree 2, you need box of 3 by 2. Okay. 2x squared, 3x, plus 2, minus x squared. Make sure you line them up based on degree. So if this is square, this has to be the square. 2x plus 2x minus 3. So make sure the degrees are matching. Then you just subtract 2x squared minus x squared. So 2 bananas minus a banana. You took away a banana. Now we only have 1 banana left. Remember, we don't write the 1 down. Okay? Then 3 apples minus, you're always reading the minus, 2 apples is simply just 1 apple. Now, 2 minus negative 3. Remember, minus minus makes a plus. So it's not really minus, it's a plus. So 2 plus 3 is a 5. And that's your answer. So it is A. Okay. Which of the following is equivalent to the cubic root of x to the 4th all to the power 5? So, here's what you guys need to remember. The cubic root of x is the same as x to the power 1/3, because remember we said we divide the powers by 3. So, the cubic root of x to the 4th is the same as saying x to the power 4 divided by 3. So, that expression inside is the same as x to the power 4 divided by 3. Okay? All of this has the power of 5. Now, remember from the video of the rules we apply to the powers, to exponents, when we have a term in parentheses, all to the power something, you just multiply the powers. So basically, you just have x to the power 4 over 3 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. So it's 20 over 3, which is C. Okay? Now, just a quick reminder that if you have a square root of x to the 3rd, this is the same as x to the power 3 divided by 2. But for square root, we don't write the 2. Okay? If it was a 4th root of x to the power 6, this is equal to x to the power 6 divided by 4. Okay? So just keep in mind that roots mean you divide the power by whatever root you have. The irregular quadrilateral shown in this figure has a length and a width of all different measurements. So m plus 2, m, 2m, and m plus 3. And we need to find the perimeter of that quadrilateral. So any general rule for perimeter is you add all sides, or it's the sum of all sides. So basically I'm adding polynomials or variables. M plus 2 plus m plus 2m plus m plus 3 So I have one monkey, another monkey, plus two monkeys, plus a monkey. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 monkeys, 5m. And then the constants are 2 plus 3, which is a 5. So 5m plus 5. Which of the following could be a graph of the function y equals 1 over x? So some of you guys will not get these types of questions right because we haven't studied that in Algebra 2 yet. But there is a small trick that we can do at least to minimize how many choices we have to choose from. For this graph, everyone knows that y equals mx plus b, because last year in Algebra 1, we know that if it's a line, it's a linear function. It has to be in that form. So on the test, if they say, what is y equals 2x or 2x plus something, then you know it's the linear function. We learned that this year, this is quadratic function. It has to have x squared. So if it's x squared plus 1, x squared plus 2, x squared plus 3, x squared plus 4, half x squared minus 9, anything that has quadratic, then you know that this is, this graph. This is, indeed, this is called exponential functions, and we're not gonna, hit it now because you guys are not ready for that yet. But the right answer is A. Anytime you see y equals 1 over x, or x is at the bottom, this is how the graph should look like, and it should have two parts. Okay? So, and if it's none of that, then D will be your choice. But I need you guys to memorize this for the TSI, that when x is at the bottom, you have two sections. So anytime you see two sections, look for x at the bottom only. Only at the bottom, not on the top, just on the bottom. Linear makes a line, quadratic means squared, and this is the fourth option. It's called logarithmic functions or exponential functions, or growth and decay. Okay, which of the following statements is true? What you need to know, if we have two parallel lines, they have equal slope, and if we have perpendicular lines, they have the reciprocal slope, but also its opposite. Because if you think about it, if that's my first line, it has a positive slope. And for a line to be perpendicular to it, that means it has to make a 90 degree. It has to go the other direction. So one has to be negative and the other has to be positive. So they have the opposite sign. So you need to flip the number, flip the sign. So if my first slope was a 2, my other slope will be a negative half. If my slope was a 5, the second will be a negative 1/5. If my slope was a 2/3, the second slope will be negative 3/2. So let's look at the following figure. In the figure above, segment BC is 4 units. Now, when I get a figure, geometric figure, I always like to have my labels on it very clearly, because if you don't label it, it's going to be very hard to think about it. Labeling helps your brain visualize the figure. Okay, so BC is 4. So this BC is 4 units long. CD is 8. And DE is 6. What is the length of AC? We need to figure out this guy. So, we are trying to find the hypotenuse of the small triangle. When you have a figure like that, usually they're trying to talk about ratios. So, we need to find the hypotenuse of the small triangle. So, we can either look and say, okay, so if this is 8 and this is 4, that means my small triangle is half of my big triangle, because 8 divided by 4 is 2. So my small is half my big. So if this is 6, what's half of 6? 3. So now I figured out A, B, and BC is given. So I can find the hypotenuse using Pythagorean theorem, which states that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So my A is a 4, so 4 squared, plus B is 3, because 3 squared equals C squared. Okay, so 4 times 4 is 16, 3 times 3 is a 9, equals C squared. 16 plus 9 is 25, equals C squared. Then to find C by itself, you need to square root 25, which is 5 times 5. So C is 5. So you get 5. Okay, there's a small thing that you guys have to watch out for. It doesn't matter which of these sides is A or B. So this could be my A and this could be my B. What's important is the hypotenuse is always the C. Okay, the hypotenuse is always the C. A and B, they don't matter which one is which. Okay, if we have a rectangle, so I like to draw rectangles, so I'll just draw my rectangle. Okay. And we're saying that this rectangle, the width and the length doubled. So, if that was my width and that was my length, then now I doubled it, so it'll become 2W and 2L. Okay, so my original area was length times width. My new area is 4 times length times width, because 2 times 2 is 4, and then L times W is LW. So if we subtract the two areas to figure out how much it increased by, it's going to be 4LW minus 1LW, or you don't even have to write the 1. This is going to be equal to 3LW. If LW is going to confuse you, you can just say LW is my original area, so I can call it A. So 4A minus A is simply 3A. Okay? So that's the difference. Now, if you can see, the old area was a 1, and the new area was a 4, so the difference between them is 3. So the new area is 3 times bigger, 300% of the old area, because 3 times bigger. So it's D. Okay, this is a geometry concept that I need you guys to just know for the TSI. There are something called complementary angles and supplementary angles. This question is asking about complementary, but I'm just going to go over all types of angles. If you have two angles that add up to a right angle, that add up to a 90 degree, so these two, we call them complementary angles. They complete each other's to make a 90 degree. So you need to add both angles, and whatever results in a 90, that's your answer. So here it's A. Because 71 plus 19 is a 90. So if they add up, so the sum of the angles, sum is 90, so it's complementary. You can just say that they complete each other to make it right. They complete each other to make it right. Okay? Supplementary angles are angles that make 180. So these two are supplementary angles. And if you forgot, remember that S makes the number 8 for 180. Okay, so supplementary angles, they add up to 180. Complementary angles, they add up to 90. They complete each other to be right. Okay, so let's talk about correlation coefficients. All you need to know about correlation coefficients is the closer you are to 0, whether it's negative or positive, the closer you are to 0, the weaker the correlation is. So, look at these choices. Which of these choices are closer to 0? So let's draw a number line. Okay. Here's my beautiful center, 0. Okay. And then I have negative 0.1. And then negative 0.9 will be this way. Then we have 0.3. And then 0.4 right next to it. Remember, this way is bigger. This way is smaller. So, look at the distance. Which one has closest to 0? The 0.1 is closer to 0. So, B is the right answer. Okay, so if you look at a die, it has 6 numbers. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you want to get a number that is... And I have 1 to 610. Okay. If you want to get a number that shows greater than 2, that means it's 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4 outcomes out of 6, which is equal to 2/3. That's the probability of rolling greater than 2. What about the probability of rolling an even number? Well, half of the numbers on the dice are even, right? So the probability of rolling a 2, 4, or 6 is just a half. Okay, so this is 2/3. This is a half. 75 rolls will show a number less than 4. So if it's less than 4, that means it's 1, 2, and 3. So it's 3 out of 6. That means it is 1 out of 2, also a half. 33 rolls will show a number less than 3. So less than 3, that means just 1 and 2. So it's 2 over 6, which is also a third. So if we roll 100 times, so let's try for A and see if we're going to get a number close to 67. So we're multiplying the 100 rolls times the probability that we calculated times 2/3. So it's equal to 66 point something something something. It goes forever. Okay, so 66.67, just to be, close. So really, A could happen because it's very close to 67. So A is not an option. Remember, the questions say not likely to happen. So A could happen. Let's try B. We're doing the 100 times the half. We all know half of 100 is a 50. So that's perfect. So that could happen. So it's not an answer. Let's try C. C, which is also a half, 50, but it says here 75, which is a whole big gap. So from 50 to 75, that's a big jump. So most likely this is the answer because it's not likely to happen. But let's try D just to double check. And D is 1/3. So we'll do 100 times 1/3 which is 33.33, which is very close to 33. So that means the only choice that is not likely to happen is C. Okay, so in this question, we have 8 red marbles, and my total is 8 plus 3 plus 4, that's 15. Okay. So the probability of getting a red marble is equal to 8 divided by 15. Now, when he picks up one red marble and does not put it back, he does not put it back, so what's going to happen? The number of red marbles will decrease by 1, and the total will also decrease by 1. So you'll have only 7 more marbles red and 14 total. So again, once he took one marble out, my new reds are 7 only, and my total now is only 14. So the new probability of getting another red becomes 7 divided by 14. So to figure out what's the probability of picking red and leaving it out, then picking another red, let's multiply. Now, we can simplify first, since the TSI does not allow calculators. So you can say, okay, so 7 divided by 14, divided by 7, divided by 7. So that's a 1, and that's a 2. Okay, so you're going to get 8 over 15 times half. Okay, you can also simplify. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So that's a 1, that's a 4. So the answer is 4 over 15. And that's the answer, which is A. So, to find the total probability, you take your first probability, which is 8 red marbles out of 15, times the second probability, which is 7 marbles out of 14. Because when we took the red one out, everything went down by 1. You multiply them, and that should give you the final probability of both actions happening together.